It's Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. Let's start the show with Lewis Tennant. Here we go. The guests and interviews that you're looking for with creators, innovators, and so much more. For all episodes and further info, verbalhighs.com is the place to go.
All right, welcome to Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs, a podcast podcasted from a variety of locations. Used to be from the kitchen bench in Kingston, New Zealand. Then I went portable thanks to Rock Shop NZ and the Roadcaster. I go around with that and a couple of mics. Though we recorded this one this week at my dining room table in my new whare in the CBD, and my guest was Tokona. And if you're a regular, and that was Holy Grail, someone who was on the list since the beginning. And I just found the right time to ask, which was when he popped up via his Hoary Buzz Facebook page, doing some Hoary guitar lessons on Sunday every week. And so I PM'd him, and we made it. We made podcast happen. So if you have listened before, a change I'm making is I'm not reading the guest their bio at the beginning of the conversation. I think that kind of weirds people out. Best to just get into a chat. So here it is. Tokona is the musician behind currently the said Hoary Buzz, also Weta, originally Steve Vai from Nine Eye. Before that, a very, very successful, well-heeled busking career with his old man. He's been around that whole Wellington singers and players bro job circuit of Fly My Pretties and it all. As he talks about in the podcast, he could have very well ended up a Freddie rather than a Weta. There was a fork in the road. And just a couple of things I want to say about this episode before I jump on in, because it's a really important one to me. I mean, they all are. But when I get a guest, I'm quite sort of who I hold in high esteem. I can get quite a nervous energy, but also I can be overly critical of the result of the podcast. But sometimes that extra layer of thought is quite constructive, and so I've made a wee list. Nothing too serious. Basically, hey, where's the list? Oh, I had this one thing planned. By the way, I'm not going to say anything about lockdown or the Roni or any of that, because I just figured that you've got that everywhere else. So we'll just jump back into the world and into podcasting. I need guests, by the way. I need guests, please. I've run out of people that I know from when I had a social life 20 years ago. If you're new, kia ora, this is, we're in the late 80s now. There's over 80 people of a similar ilk from New Zealand for you to listen to if you like my show. But yeah, it is a conversation, not an interview. So if I seem quite chatty and you want to hear just from Aaron, it is a conversation. It was lovely catching up with Aaron, and we cover a lot of ground very democratically, and as always, he's very insightful. Okay, one final content, I hate that word, let's go conversation PSA. I hate acronyms, but I've done that too now. It's probably the most important. There's a number of topics we don't go into depths about by design. Two of which that are Aaron's well-known open discussions about his mental health journey, and also, although I think I touch on it, we don't really go through in kind of forensic detail the end of Weta and all of that kind of a thing. And the reason for that is, I plan that. It's out there, it's on the record. He's been very insightful, very open, very honest. I think the things I listen to, which I'll gift to you in a second, are very worth listening to. But I didn't want to, and funnily this analogy comes up in a different context in the podcast, another story Aaron tells. I didn't kind of want to make him the kind of dancing bear of kind of telling the mental health story again. So yeah, the two conversations, there was actually three. Phil Knight from Shehard had What Phil's Worried About, which is a great podcast, double it with Aaron, but that's gone offline. So you can't listen to that, so that's forget that. But if you Google Nutters Club and Aaron Tokona, Nutters Club is a mental health show on Talkback Radio here. There was a Kim Hill interview. I thought it was very good, and that's very easy to search because you just need to search music, mental illness, and mini golf, and maybe RNZ, and that'll come up. Facebook, you can find us at Verbal Highs Podcast. Just search for Verbal Highs. Twitter, I think That's Verbal Highs. I haven't read it out so long. Yeah, my Twitter handle is Verbal Highs. And I also have a website, verbalhighs.com. And something on that I've spent many human voluntary hours on is if you go to Verbal Highs Podcast /NZPD, or just find the button that I've linked to on the main page to that page I'm about to talk about, I've set up a New Zealand podcast directory. I'm trying to get the most comprehensive and accurate and up-to-date list of New Zealand-based, New Zealand-themed or New Zealand-starring podcasts. Okay, so if you could go and have a look at that, I'd be very grateful. And if you felt the need to email me, because it is kind of a wiki crowdsourced project, I'd love any leads on new shows. I'll put them up as soon as I'm told. Or old shows that I've missed. The thing with this is really interesting with it is I don't know whether I'm 3% of the way there with the list or whether I have 90% of New Zealand's podcasts on the list. So that's an interesting part of it. If you want to go to Aaron's socials, I'm not sure if he's still doing the guitar lessons, but the videos are still up. There's some great stuff on the Hori Buzz page. But you do have to go quote mark a Hori Buzz, quote mark, all one word. So like apostrophe a Hori Buzz, all one word, H-O... Don't listen to me. A quote mark a Hori Buzz, all one word, another closed bracket... Aaron, no one's going to go to your Facebook page. You guys will find it, a Hori Buzz. Aaron Tokona on Twitter. His tagline is "Fuck up and tweet me." WHA. Very good. Look, we're back. The world's coming back to normal. I saw a great show on Netflix. I binged one series of on the weekend. It's called Dead to Me. That's my recommendation for this week. Aaron, thank you for coming in, bro.
Verbal high straight down from up above.
I'm quite deaf.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's really good.
Yes, I reckon it would be straight in there, eh?
Yeah, okay. Yes, you might turn it down a little bit.
Okay. How's that?
Bit better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get in there. You've used one of these before. Pull it up. Yeah, that's it.
1, 2.
Oh, look at that. The beautiful natural timber.
Timbra.
What flavour you vaping in these COVID times?
I like the dessert flavours.
Yeah.
They just got a bit of a weight to them.
Don't you find
for me?
Don't you find they gunk up your coils? I like a more transparent. I'm cheap, so
Apparently a gunky coil's pretty good if you want to do a good vocal take. Nothing like a gunky coil, bro.
So I prepped these.
Shit, you've done a bit of prep there,
yeah,
right?
well, sort of. There's a big
2
thing.
pages.
No, that's actually that's misleading. That's something else. And I looked at it today, and could go anywhere, man. I don't really know what's on here, but I'm joined by Aaron. I've listened to a few interviews with you, like one with Richie Hardcore and that great one with Phil from Shehad that disappeared.
Oh shit!
Offline, and everyone has different takes on your surname. So if I said Tokona, is that how you'd say it, or is that still wildly off?
No, that's good. In these racially sensitive times. Shit.
Yeah.
You know, I think New Zealand's always been pretty forgiving on that end. I mean, it depends which part of the country you come from, which iwi you're from, really. But my dad used to always kind of refer to his surname as Tokona.
Yeah.
Tokona.
But that's even when, like, Māori were, like, everyone was pronouncing stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
For a while.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mind you, my dad's from bloody colonised bloody Māori, really.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he didn't speak the language.
So is he from the era of, like, literally being disciplined for it in school?
Well, no, his parents were.
Yeah.
Yeah. His parents were, which is a deeply stirring cultural myism that,
Yeah.
well, it's one of those things that really did define. I saw it in my parents. I mean, that loss of identity really just.
I teach now.
Oh, do you?
And it comes up when things around this.
What do you teach?
Come up in class. The department it didn't really exist when we were coming on up. I think it did up here, but it's called communications, and so they major in like screen or radio or like journalism or.
I see.
The longest running thing that's AUT that used to be the Polytech. The longest running thing is the journalism degree, because journalism used to be a trade, like being a mechanic or so that goes back to when that was a trade school. Yeah,
interesting.
But anyway, when it comes up, bro, that's just it. Like, if I don't want to sort of like pigeonhole certain students here, but some students who perhaps have no insight into anything except maybe quite a well-off North Shore world, for example.
Yeah.
Where when you're talking culture and perceptions of and stuff, it's like, well, if you lose your language only 2 generations ago, like, where does that, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's foundational stuff, eh?
Oh, yeah, it really is. And I think my generation's a result of that, you know. And, it's it's a deep subject, and it's a subject that I think you need to be guided through.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right. And I'm always really aware that I'm some honky up there trying to, like, waylay this, but you got to start somewhere. So how was lockdown, man? Like, were the videos, like, for you, because you started doing, this is how I reached out to you, because you were doing those awesome Sunday night wine promo / guitar lessons.
Oh, God.
And I never thought I'd do Facebook video, man. I started doing, like, radio shows, like Active 20 years ago, pretty much the same thing with video.
Yeah.
Did you do it? I know it's because you sort of like thinking about getting back on the road again and stuff, or you said that on the show, but was part of it just to, like, try and look out of the bubble in some way? Like,
that's a good way, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, part of it was that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like, you know, it was a bit random. You know, like, I just kind of pulled up to my phone and kind of announced, and I've had a pretty dramatic love-hate relationship with social media over the years. I think we all have in one way or another, but you know, I'm on there quite intensely, and then I'm quite intensely off there. Yeah, and I just popped up. It always surprises me, actually, because, you know, that Hoary Buzz page, it's been quite, you know, for a long time dormant. Yeah. You know, but there's an active audience on there all the time, you know, and every time I do peek into that, past that door, and, you know, I'm surprised about the feedback that comes through, not just in the comment section, but also in the bloody direct mail or in the back end of it too. And so, man, you know, it really surprises me that.
It's because you know you're an appealing dude, man. You're talented, so you know. I shared the video straight away. It's like, you know. It was great. It was great seeing you, and it was just nice. It was just nice seeing someone. It's just nice seeing how different people kind of reach out of that, and kind of how people took a little bit of what they do or what they like, and sort of, like, you know, some better than others, you know. But it was good, man.
I've never really
worth it, man.
Yeah, I've never really had a problem with authentically trying to be myself in any arena, you know. Yeah. I'll just rock up somewhere and just bounce off that straight away.
I think your neurosis seemed like mine, like I can't remember how you said it, but it was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And you didn't mean what you just talked about, which is performing. You meant, why are we all looking at each other through fucking glowing rectangles, you know? I mean, it's not the world. It's not the world has changed so much, you know. This is like sort of Rogan territory. You end up talking about that for 3 hours. But sometimes I go, sometimes you just go, everything has changed so much. Yeah. And the virus hitting, it's like, it's getting into some kind of Star Trek.
And there's some really stark irony of it when you're doing that Facebook stuff, because you're actually looking at a screen, looking at yourself.
Which is weirdly narcissistic.
It is narcissistic, but it's also a reflection of, you know, that was one of the things. I've never done those kind of video casts, what the hell you ever call them. No. But something right at the beginning there struck me that, you know, like, I could see all these people coming in to the page and all these smiley faces and ticks and stuff like that. Yeah. But, you know, there was no one in the room, and there I was on the screen looking at me, looking at you, looking at me.
Love hearts, like, love hearts popping at you while you look at yourself.
The strange kind of isolating irony in that. You know, so it was quite weird, but
it isn't at the same time, bro. Like it was a way of connecting people.
Oh yeah,
you know, in that particular period. Yeah. But I found, like, because, you know, being from a radio background, like that's what I found hard about it, man. Like, I've got no problem. I find it easier to get up with a microphone, say in an MC capacity, like, you know, doing an event or whatever, and 500 people, then I probably would to 4 people. Like that's that side of it's fine, but with the camera looking at you, I found I became more relaxed with the radio shows when I took the camera screen off. Yeah. So I'd just get it positioned and then I wouldn't look at it.
Yeah.
But last thing with the social media, man, like I heard you call yourself like an emotional reactor, and that's made me realise that's kind of what I am too. And it can be really good, but it can be not that flash. but Facebook, I think, is like it's sort of adrenaline for that kind of personality. You know,
it is. Yeah, you're right.
And I'm nowhere near as all over the place on it as I used to be.
Yeah, same.
But I think it's good you locked yours down to a page, because I thought about that today. You don't get all that noise coming in from people. You just invite it in when you want it. Yeah. I think that's the big difference,
That's
right?
the thing I appreciated about it, really.
Yeah.
Is that you have ultimate control over it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, you've got an audience there and you can pop in there and pop out of there whenever you like.
Yeah.
Really, which is good.
Yeah, just all that shit coming at you. So, yeah, some of the stuff was talked about on those other shows, like, you probably get a little bit, not sick of, but don't always feel like you're a bit of like a performing horse. We're talking about weather and mental health and that sort of stuff. So we'll touch on some of that those sort of areas, but kind of in a different context. So before we do, I've heard you talk about it a few times, people get the band wrong. What year would have been in the audience at RockQuest and seen Pride and Joy and Aaron Tokona from 90 College, who became this like name and urban legend? 91?
91, yeah. I think it was 91? I think it was the early end of the 90s. I think it was the 90. Yeah, I think it was 91, 92, 93. That would be right. I know that we were the generation I was in. I was in the generation with Anika Moore, Vic Runga, you know, all the Freddie's boys. Yeah. That was quite a interesting. When I look back,
the Freddie's guys, like as young guys,
yeah. Well, you know, Toby,
yeah. Well, Wellington College band,
Wellington College band, you know, you had your Barnabys in there, You had
Powder was in a band called Soft Crop Giraffe, around that era.
Yeah, you had
the Cora Boys were in kind of Rage Against the Machine kind of
AC/DC kind of things.
Very hot.
Can I throw to them now?
You can. They are here.
Here's Auntie Beatrice from Whakatane. Boys, hit it! Oh!
There's colors floating through my eyes. Feels like a great surprise. I'm feeling just like I knew I should. I guess I always knew I could, but
you know, there was quite a lot of us in there that went on to actually make little careers for ourselves in New Zealand out of that era. And that must have been I think it was about the 3rd or 4th generation in for the RockQuest. So I know it wasn't the first generation in. I know RockQuest had been around for about 2 or 3 years before us lot showed up.
So not to say, I just thought about this now, not to say any of you wouldn't have found your footing otherwise, but that sounds like it's actually, that event was it's a good thing to have in New Zealand, that thing starting off.
Oh, hell yeah.
Did it give you a kind of sense of...
Well, it gave us it gave... for a lot of us, we'd never performed in that kind of, you know, professional environment, you know, with stage monitors and lights and an audience, you know, so it was a bit of a buzz. I'd never done that. And
people forget then, like, there was less of a natural audience for New Zealand music, so you're introducing, I just thought about it, you're introducing all these like audiences too, because we're all going to these kind of like
that's right,
full rock and roll shows for, they were probably like $4 or something. Yeah, exactly.
Hilarious.
And but so how back then, my guitar, I mean, I learned how to read a few notes and stuff, but anyway, how do you learn stuff like, was you a Vi guy? You were like just a hot licks guitarist back then, eh? How do you learn that stuff back then? Was it handing around the one videotape that everyone had a copy of one of those tutorials, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've been...
Just by ear?
Yeah, it was by ear. You know, it was just, I don't know. I mean, it was that age too, you know. It's that you know, I was obsessed with guitar. And,
So what? 5 seconds of the tape on the boombox, pause, work that out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Pause.
I was lucky that I had a 4-track, so I could actually slow things down.
Okay,
the pitch and you know obviously there wasn't any internet, but there was there was those guitar videos that you just ran them all, you know.
Yeah, and because I was listening to like I was watching a Tony Hawk thing, the skater, and he was talking about how kids these days with YouTube can just learn. They can learn what used to take that long, and like that long, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
With resources, but I think there's something to be said about less of stuff sometimes.
Right.
But that came from busking, right? The first thing was like you were talking about your dad dressing you up, and that sounds a bit.
When did I talk about that?
on one of your Sunday things.
Did I?
Yeah, for a long period of time.
Oh my god,
that was your first kind of. You guys would split the money, and it was
raving
democratic, like
raving hoary. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've seen is, you know, Dad brought us up. He was on the DPB, 3 kids, you know, like. And I think as soon as he could see that I could play an instrument, you know, we went out there and started making money, which was great. So that was an extra motivating factor for me to connect, you know, playing music, being good at music, and making money from music.
And turning up to school with more money in your pocket than most people from busking, right?
Yeah, absolutely, you know. And the first thing I did with all my money from busking is invested in more music. Like, you know, in tapes and books and anything from Steve Vai magazines. So, you know, it was good.
So did Clinton like follow, being your brother, did he follow in your footsteps, or just everyone?
No, he just popped up. But no, honestly, he just popped up one day. Like, I don't know, he just popped up one day and all of a sudden was this really fucking great bass player out of the blue. Like, I don't know what happened. I think I was off of my merry-go-round land of guitar-y, geeky, had my mates stay out all night, play, kind of vibe, and then the thing that really happened there was Flea from the Chili Peppers. And anything that the Chili Peppers did, my brother suddenly got intensely involved in it, but I wasn't around. Yeah. And so, you know, all of a sudden... what's
the gap between you guys? A few years?
Just a year.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But, you know, I was pretty out the door. I had all the freedom, you know, so I didn't hang around the house. I was like jamming with my mates, you know, all the time. So all of a sudden he just became a shit-hot bass player out of nowhere. So.
No, he must have done what you did, which you talked about, which is like get up at 4 a.m. and... Because you practice like relentlessly before school and stuff, and after school in every moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely, it was part of my routine.
But school, not so much. You kind of busted some kind of riff at a really important school gig, and
oh my God, you've done your
I just watched those videos on the Sunday.
Did it really?
Yeah.
God,
no.
I'm going to go watch them again.
You gave away.
I think I'm... Yeah.
You got to tell. You got to
clearly did drink a lot of wine.
Because I think that it might have been from somewhere else, but I think that's kind of a great story that speaks to kind of your attitude in a lot of ways, in a really good way, and also like to how schooling was a bit more anal back then. Like I would hope you wouldn't get kicked out for that then. So there was a gig with the school.
Well, the thing is that you know, like people always got rewarded in school for academic achievements, right?
Yeah.
And so. You know, I remember feeling that, you know, like I had a band, we came first place for something, and we won the school band competition. I had, you know, in the Hut News, I had some write-ups about me, and then went on to win the Rock Quest and blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the year, we had this rehearsal assembly to rehearse, you know, achievement and stuff, where they come up and get the award from the mayor. And I was sitting there, and I honestly must have thought to myself, well, I felt like I achieved a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, I felt like okay, great, you know, like, I'd won these competitions, you know, like, blah, 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 had these write-ups in the paper, all that, whatnot. And as the assembly, everyone was getting rewarded for academics and music, and, you know, Juliet, blah, 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 and the whole thing finished. And and then there was nothing. I remember feeling quite down about it and quite fucked off. Like I'm like going, you know, you're giving all these awards and giving a stage to people who obviously have music academically or whatever achievements.
Yeah.
And I think I must have felt like that. And then straight after assembly, the deputy principal came up to me and basically said, "Oh, would you like to perform?" And I thought to myself, why the fuck would you want me to support? To perform, you know what I mean? And I felt like a little nigger, you know?
You didn't fit into, I get it.
No,
you
I
didn't fit
felt
into
like
their
this-
little awards ceremony.
Yeah, I felt like, oh, okay, you want me to play at this award ceremony, but you're not going to acknowledge any of my, what it, to me, felt like things that...
Dance.
Yeah, dance, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then he said to me, he goes, "Oh, but, you know, I need to listen to what you're going to play." And so, you know, there was my chance. I played this classical piece called Cavatina, which is, you know, a beautiful classical piece. I played it to him. And then on the day, you know, I set up everything. I set up all my, you know, thing, and the mayor of the hut was sitting up there. And I think my dad was there, that's right. And I started playing the classical piece, blah, 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 blah. And then about, I don't know, quarter way through it, I just basically stood up, stepped on the distortion pedal, turned around to the amp, put it up full bore and started playing Van Halen's Eruption. Really fucking loud in this audience, right?
Yeah.
And I could see my friends quite shocked, and everyone was like looking like that, and I could see the deputy principal up on the stage giving me the biggest evils. But in my... for me, I was like, I was like, get fucked, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
And then, as the assembly wrapped up, I packed up all my stuff and basically got up and just started walking out out of the assembly, and over the mic, the deputy principal goes, "Aaron Tokona, come back here now," really loudly. "Come back here now," really loudly.
That's crazy.
I know. And incidentally, you know, I got kind of dismissed from the school, which I thought was fucking funny, looking back on it.
Attitude, oh,
But
man.
you know,
There's too much to unpack there.
I know. It was quite weird.
But
you know.
you never mentioned your old man was there before. Was he was into it? Or?
I think he was there.
Yeah.
I think he was there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think he knew what to think about that.
Yeah.
Like-
And then the next schooling moment was turning up to jazz school, and like, you thought to yourself, I don't really want to sit around and practice notes for 2 years. I'd right. Which I love too.
Well, jazz school's not exactly the sexiest.
I've been jumped about 5 years.
Not
there,
exactly the sexiest place you want to end up,
Yeah,
right? You know,
yeah.
you're scratching 17, 18, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it's not really the... Anyway, you know, I remember qualifying. I remember getting into jazz school because I played some Jose Triani thing at the audition or something like that, and getting into it. But it dawned upon me quite quickly that, you know, like, I never listened to a lot of jazz anyway. I realised the kind of discipline you needed to exercise if you wanted to take that music on and learn that. But that wasn't me, no.
And you already like, because get it, you know, you're coming from, even from the busking and stuff, it's like, just get out there, and it's that thing of just get out there and do it. And if you've naturally got the chops and the air and the performing thing down.
Well, I think it also, you know, reinforces the fact that, you know, if you're good at something and you work hard, then you should get paid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
You just need some mean glasses and some mean...
yeah, you know. If you perform really well and you really, really dug it in, you'd make a lot of money.
Oh, man, look, people like Warren, the list could go on, who are definitely not confined in that box, but have that rigid kind of background. But then, bro, like, I wonder now, and I kind of said this because I had Julia Deans on as well, and I have no insight of jazz school, but I just wonder, like, your story about the, like, uptight old white 90s headmaster, you'd hope that 20 years later, even jazz school might have changed a little in terms of their approach. Do you know what I mean? Like, we live in a different world in terms of creativity and schooling and stuff, you know? But
I don't know what, to be honest with you, I don't know what the world of music education is out there at the moment. What I do know is that I've been to a few schools and it's blown me away to see their setup.
I always thought, like, tone was related to, like, a particular guitar or whatever you played, but that Santana story, like, is tone a thing? My musicality is not deep enough for that. You seek one tone on many different guitars and amp setups, just finding your sound?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on the musical situation you're in, but, you know, yeah, I mean, I have a a vision of how I hear music.
Yeah.
And that vision I interpret in the way that I get the amp working, the guitar working, the pressure I put on the string to the fretboard. All of it's kind of all related, I think, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that, that whole thing with, that's really interesting. I mean, you could, I mean, those guys just sound like who they are. You could put a piece of shit in front of, and Steve Vai or Citriani, they'll make it sound.
I just realised I didn't tell the origin story very well. You're like some guitar store, he came on in Santana, which is probably a fairly big deal in a Wellington guitar store, and everything he played around the shop sounded like Santana playing a guitar.
Yeah. And why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's just the way that people hear and feel music.
Do you reckon that like stand-up comedy or like a whole lot of kind of performative things, you only ever get better and better and better? Like, you know, do you 20 years later you feel you've mastered it more? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it an ongoing, like, I will never quite reach the perfect this or that?
Yeah, and I think it's meant to be like that.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. So you feel that?
Oh, yeah. I don't think you're ever meant to get to a point where, you know, you feel that you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And, and I'm pretty sure that all my, idols and heroes probably feel the same. And, they just keep reaching for something.
The thing is, bro, we're in the generation, sorry to cut you off, I just realised, but we're in the generation where rock and roll's kept going, of an age where I'm like, with that, I'm wondering, what's the end thing with the Stones? Just like Charlie Watts just fall off the drumwiser one day? Where does it...
No, fuck, I don't know.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know how to wrap those guys up into some kind of bubblegum, but no.
How about like, say, maybe our generation's Rolling Stones, which is probably Metallica, like, with that speed, like, what, does someone just snap on stage? What, you just don't know? Where does it stop?
Well, what are you going to do, I mean, if you're going to go and play a gig and 50,000 people are going to turn up, it's not like you're not going to turn up.
No, I went, and you know what, and I'm obviously being facetious, like, I went to the Stones for the first time only a few years ago. They were last in Auckland. It was a fucking amazing show, Maybe I'm 20 years late, I don't know. It was an amazing show, Yeah,
and you'd hope it would be, because they play in that kind of environments all their lives, right? Like, we did this gig in Perth. I think we supported Green Day as Weta over there, right?
Yeah.
We'd never done a stadium show before.
Yeah.
Didn't know what it was like, And we didn't have much of a sound check. I remember walking on to that stage and all of a sudden looking to my left, and my brother was 50 metres that way, right? Yeah. And then the other guitarist was 50 metres that way.
Games was the other way, yeah.
And then the drummer was 25 metres behind me. Yeah. And I'd never ever felt that detached from my boys, because all we'd ever played in were pubs, right? And so there's a certain kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, but there's a certain kind of thing that happens in that kind of environment where, I think it takes a long time to get used to that kind of space and distance in that sphere. And it's not, and I mean, it was like, I don't know, 40,000 people at a stadium, and so much of that is overwhelming, even if you're not on stage, let alone being on stage. When I look at a band like Metallica or Foo Fighters or any of those guys that are so fucking good and comfortable in that space, only a few people be able to do that.
Where the smallest movement is just a reverberation through the fucking universe.
It's just It's not a.
I started to get a little anxious the way I get it, man. It's like you start to go, that's like serious business.
This is serious business, eh? Like this is a parallel universe away from most people's, day to day general fucking. I'm going to go to work today and tune up in front of.
I got into nerding out and like on one of those YouTube algorithm things and watching the behind the scenes crew these days on shows like that, what a guitar tech is for one of those bands, and all the Wi-Fi technology and MIDI and
MIDI
someone else controlling your pedals and someone. It's like
Next level, yeah, it's crazy.
Next level. So with you guys in Weta, as I say, how did you guys get together? Because Clint went to my high school.
I remember Den Heyer.
He was the star drummer at Devox, which is maybe with like,
thank you,
not one of the Samasonis, maybe Sharon Samasoni,
the
older sister Holiday Makers.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, she's a beautiful voice. Yeah.
Oh, hugely talented family. Yeah.
But I do remember in my mind being side of stage and watching him play the drums and thinking to myself, man, that guy fucking awesome, and then later on down the track, I think because I had that in my mind, he turned up somewhere else, so I had an air of respect for his talent, and I remember feeling that. So somewhere, I don't know how that connected, but it connected somehow, and I really wanted him, and then my brother, and then I think we started jamming, and shit, I don't know, it was fucking 25 years ago, but it just one of those things, just but at the time it was Wellington was rock and roll land, Wellington was ruled by she-hard head like a hole.
The first time I just randomly jumped online, it says Hori Buzz is going live. You're talking about the influence of kind of DJs and that side in Wellington. The famous line from Craig Terrace to me was like, Lewis playing guitar in the mid-90s, late 90s in Wellington was like having fucking AIDS. So Terrace approach, but...
Well, the funny thing was, I think, is, honestly, I'd go up to Lemon's place he used to live across the hall from the Margarita in Samars, which is up at their sort of flat in Gusney Street, and Lemon lived with my friends, and I remember walking to a flat, and he was jumping up and down, listening to reggae music like it was fucking 1 o'clock in the morning after taking lots of drugs, making heaps of weed, but it was like till 11 o'clock in the morning, and it was just Lemon.
And Danny was he'd go to Studio 9 back with those old licensing laws. He'd go to Studio 9 from like 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Drug free as a whistle.
Yeah, absolutely.
He'd just bunch of wheat bix go down there with us.
And just plug it on, And so I met Danny and then obviously I met Mo and then Roots Foundation boys, and I felt like that I had a studio up with a friend of mine called Flex Wax, was just up around the corner from the metal.
It was in the active building.
Yeah, that's right.
With George.
Yeah.
Napier.
Yeah. And that's where I met Mo, and then we had that studio together, and then we met Dallas. He kind of came in, and he was this smooth looking,
he was like
D'Angelo loving,
kind of like
totally. D'Angelo loving, very smooth looking, beautiful, Māori boy
with that voice
that had a voice like chocolate. And then when we started our Bong Master sessions up there, and so I always felt like I had a foot in this whole rock and roll Weta world, but I also enjoyed having a foot in jamming with these bros that were, DJs, and there were two worlds kind of colliding for me musically, and and my best music friend was a guy called Ian Gordon, and we did this project together for the Wellington Arts Festival called Largo, and a lot of collaborations started in and around that project for us, and we spent a lot of time. We were best musical mates, he was my boy, outside of and back then for me, I think I saw things as, this is my rock and roll project, and geeky, I know, but we had things like that, right? And I remember when Weta got signed by Warner Music, and they wanted to get out to Australia and stuff like that. I remember meeting Ian down at Matterhorn one night, and I was going off my little rock and roll escapade and stuff like that, and we went outside to say our goodbyes, and he burst into tears. And it was the first time it occurred to me that he was my bro as much as I was his.
But also Ian's quite a player's cards close to his chest kind of guy. I wouldn't have expected that.
I didn't either. But then I walked away from that situation feeling quite filled with quite a lot of emotion, because up until that point I didn't know what I was walking away from, walking into, what leaving behind or arriving at another point. But I think we had done so much collaboration, so much work. Bongmaster did so many gigs. We'd written so much music together. We really did establish a fucking a wealth of musical appreciation the Freddy's thing came out of the Matterhorn, One Night Matterhorn, their first thing. I thought, oh, great, because, of course, all that collaboration and all that time producing and supporting it, and of course that was going to turn into something. Of course that was going to, fucking go off into what that did and is today. Of course, born out of a time of, and particularly in Wellington, a lot of that stuff was born out of a time of.
We were all in it. It was.
We were right in there.
Yeah.
Everyone was.
So that period. So the last thing on Weirdo was, do you, aside from you and your bro, do you guys have anything to do with each other anymore?
No.
Or was it just too much of that?
Well,
I'm trying to sort of be, diplomatic.
No, I mean, it just, I think it's funny though because, to be honest, like I kind of missed the boat with that whole weird thing and with eventually how people came to regard it as something important because, it came to the stage of my life where it kind of split up, it kind of, imploded for me. Not for them, for me. Yeah. All of it, quite dramatically. I mean, we did our record and stuff like that, and, it was around a time where I was having quite a few problems with mental illness stuff. Yeah. And I didn't quite understand it, but anyway, it was imploding for me, and I just kind of walked away from it, and it was only, it's funny when you kind of walk away from it and you close the door on it and then all the noise stops. And the noise stopped for me for quite a long time.
Yeah, you didn't do the wrong thing, man. You couldn't have kept going with that, man. No. So people regard that band, there's a lot of, I'm not trying to downplay how great a project that was, but other great things come that people like. You need to fucking look after yourself,
Yeah,
man.
That's right. But I didn't realise how much that, until... how much people really loved that record. I didn't actually know. I didn't really, I couldn't listen to that. It was just became something that I deleted.
Yeah.
Like you do. So it was really interesting.
Oh no, I totally. I mean, that makes total sense. You don't want to listen or go near that.
No,
and as you say, all the suits around you. At the end, there's so much there that you just.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that went. But it's interesting though because it's been a beautiful thing to watch. Over the years, a lot of people. But I began to find myself appreciating it and actually loving that music again, purely out of other people's passion and love for it. Yeah, this all the way down the line, which is quite interesting. Yeah,
I'll tell you, man. Was it those? I messaged Phil, as in Mr. Knight, and I said, "Is that episode of that podcast still up with Aaron?" It was quite a few years ago. It was really good, mate. You guys did a two-parter. Right. Remember that? What Phil's worried about today?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I think Rio was on another one. Yes. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
So I just put it out there, like, not only the being young and like just all that energy and that era in Wellington and this and that and da-da-da, like it was so good hearing you guys a few years later talk about all of that because I 98, 99, like I was in a terrible fucking space, and I disappeared to Auckland and had a really bad time up here. There's stuff with family and all this stuff, and just no one talked about anything. But it was like a weight off for me that I thought I was the one like hiding everyone with the Crazy Lewis shit. But hearing Rio, like all of the stories, it's like, I mean, and I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I think that I don't even know if it's an era thing. Like, I just would someone in their 20s now, I think it's just some stuff. Yeah, it was kind of a weight off hearing that I'm not the only one.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
I do. I appreciate that.
But I wonder. Yeah, I do wonder. I mean, in all this kind of like era of supposedly everyone being so open and stuff and whatever, I still think there's that not just the serious mental illness you've talked about, but just that age. That's late teens, mid-20s.
Fucking awful.
You know what?
Fucking awful on its own, let alone
that's what I mean.
having a condition of some kind.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like, and you think you think you've got it, and you're like I got this, and you realise like I kind of like, that's what I like about now, and I teach people that age, so it's sort of like. Yeah, okay, you can think you have all the answers. It's kind of relaxing.
Well, it's bizarre time. It's a bizarre time too, because it's that age in our lives, and most of our lives, where all of a sudden, we've been focused and put energy into whatever we're into, and all of a sudden those things start peeking out around you. Yeah. So it's a dichotomy that you end up in a space, and I don't think it's exclusive to anyone, except that you end up in a space where things start paying off in your life, and in your outer life it looks like, fuck, that guy's awesome, he's got all this success around him and he's got these things banging off, but inside it can be quite the opposite for a lot of people in that first part of that journey.
But look, parts of that era, like such fondness, because also, and I've talked to other people on this podcast about that, like is that nostalgia on our part, but certain things happen at certain times in certain places. We were kind of in a city in a particular period of time that was kind of pinging off as well, like lots of people were doing, it was just lots to go and see and do.
I think that's really important distinction to make.
I've called this show sometimes Old Guys Talking About the 90s, so
yeah. Well, that was interesting. That was what I can say is I can talk about this from this perspective, right? In Wellington in the 90s, I got to be a part of an environment and an energy that was super creative,
cross-pollinating.
That was, people doing. It was the birth of a lot of things that people, were doing, which is great to be a part of. And I got to do that in the rock world. I got to do that in other places. When I left the Weta thing, I ended up becoming a dad, got married, ended up living in Christchurch, and I was down there for about maybe 8 to 10 years, until I discovered this little thing through a tunnel called Littleton, and I set up a studio in Littleton, and started doing music again, which is...
Because just to stop you there for a second, you just put down your guitar for 6, 8, 10 years, right? A long time. That's crazy.
Dad,
Oh, yeah. You say you sat around and...
No. Had a baby, family, go out, work, fucking...
But part of it was music burnout, right?
Yeah. And, but then I started getting the flame back for it, and I set up a studio in Littleton, and, and ended up, coming up, I just wanted a jam band, and it ended up being a band called Bahori Buzz, and, that was something that was never meant to be anything but me and my mates having a jam and a blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it ended up turning into a thing, and so I started producing a lot of this music, and funnily enough, I met this kid in a uniform, because a friend of mine called Jen, who was an artist, a beautiful artist, and you start meeting a lot of these beautiful artist people and
little settlements outside of you got it. Yeah.
And then I met this little kid Marlon, and he was Jen's boy, and he was met all these beautiful people. Then Aldous Harding and all this Delaney, I remember having a moment there when I could actually, I had the sense of I was in the middle of something that was brewing in a little town.
Another one. You found another one?
Yeah. No shit. No, I was like going...
Well, names like Aldous, that's a unique... Yeah, that's...
Like I'm getting wasted with Aldous up at the Wunderbar on a Tuesday, doing gigs.
The Wunderbar, overlooking the supermarket through the windows.
I'm doing bloody Tuesday, Wednesday night gigs, Thursday night gigs with Marlon in town, playing a little covers duo. Marlon had his little band, Delaney Davison, I remember that when he hit the city, he was like this renegade cowboy kind of guy, and I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is and this town just started turning into this fucking hillbilly folk music-y fucking town, right? And I'm thinking to myself, so it's interesting coming from an era where you had no sense that you were inside something until you could see it upon reflection or retrospect.
You knew.
But I'm sitting here,
You're with the benefit of it.
Yeah. I'm sitting here like going, shit, this shit's happening again.
Yeah.
Like, and then these people start pinging off. Like, Marlins start pinging off. And I remember seeing Marlins thing for the first time, and I remember looking at them like going, that's going to go. I don't know how that's going to happen. But that's going to go. Yeah. I did an earthquake relief concert, and about a couple of months after the earthquake, and at this coffee shop that we all gravitated towards, called Littleton Coffee Company, and I played a set, and everyone in the community played a set, and straight after I played, Aldous Harding got up and played. I remember I used to think she was a bit of a nutter weirdo. And
she's when you first see her, it's a confronting. Well, not confronting. It's an odd show, man.
I know. Yeah. And we all. But when you kind of, I didn't know her deeply or stuff like that. But I kind of, she was David Lynch's niece, fucking weirdo.
Is she really?
I don't know. No.
That's
I don't know, but the thing is about it is that, I remember at this earthquake relief thing, I remember doing my little set, I think, and I remember going, and then she got up to the mic, and then she started singing, and that was the first time that I witnessed the magnitude of her talent.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And I was standing next to the stage of her, and I remember going after her, and I'm going, that was just fucking incredible. It made my soul bleed. Thank you very much. Giving her a hug,
But it's her own thing, man.
Oh, mate.
There's not many things especially when you've seen a lot and heard a lot. There's not a lot of times. That's one thing I really cherish these days. Is even if I don't do or don't, it's not particularly my steez. I like it when I go, that person is
talent you can't deny, authenticity.
But also, they've got their own thing, their own lane. And what I love through the middle, bro. I'm sorry, why am I telling you? Trying to prompt you for stories, but I laughed at this so hard because like in the gap, it's like a Coen Brothers movie. You're working at a lily putt, like a mini putt thing.
Yes.
But the way you describe it, I pictured you there with your little hat on, and you stopped playing music, and you said all your old rock star mates would come through town, and you're handing out balls and like.
Yeah, not just that. There was a couple of interesting thing,
welcome to, what was it called?
Wild West Mini Golf.
Welcome to Wild West Mini Golf. $8, 2 games.
That was my wife's, my ex-wife's family.
Oh no, just to the business, but the story of you sitting there
post. Oh no, but there's a better story than that. Like I turned up, on the construction site because my brother-in-law at the time was this American guy called Frank, and Frank was this Captain America fucking, anyway. But he built these amusement entertainment parks, and I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
I turned up in Christchurch with brill cream still through my hair, my skinny jeans on, and my Rattity Tech fucking rock and roll leather jacket,
and glasses,
and walked into this conservative white old Christchurch environment.
Right,
money.
That world
thing.
Still really exists down there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And met these people that, were all of a sudden my in-laws. And so anyway, I didn't have a job, and I was kind of like, turned up on a construction site with my brother-in-law and started building this fucking amusement park. And, mate, I know how to play a guitar. You give me any fucking instrument and I'll play the fuck out of it. But give me a hammer and a nail, so I wouldn't have a fucking clue, right?
So you're building the mini... Did you build the park you worked in?
I was in construction.
That's biblical.
But, I was ridiculed on that team. I was kind of... didn't have the skills and kind of regarded as kind of the bum boy guy that didn't know, people... I'm talking about construction guys that would treat me as this kind of like, fucking...
I hear you. I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'd go to work every day because you had a wife and baby to support, and you just put your hat on and do that. And there were some days where things got pretty low, and because when you've come from a space personally where you're of high esteem, that you're respected, that you're well regarded, that you've achieved these things, and blah, blah, blah. And then you find yourself on a construction site with a whole bunch of, fucking wankers giving you
Yeah.
shit because, you don't know how to put the pole into the ground right.
Yeah.
And they kind of do that. And I had this one experience where we were laying concrete and stuff like that. And over the radio, this Weta song comes on really loudly. And I looked around and I remember telling the one guy, oh, shit, that's me on the radio. And he thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever heard.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, it got around the guys.
And they're mocking you.
And they're starting to mock me. On the fucking on the construction site, right?
Yeah.
And they're like going, blah, blah, blah. And I'm standing there going, not only do you mock me because I don't know how to use the hammer like you fucking bogans, but now you're ridiculing me because what I'm telling you, blaring on the rock radio is me, and you guys don't think it is, and you starting to take the piss out of me, right? And so I remember going home and feeling really awful about that.
Yeah.
And that used to kind of go on to that part. So, which for me...
There must be a payoff. Did they realise you were telling the truth?
Well, no, I don't know. But I just, every time, a song used to end up on the radio, I wouldn't say anything, but which just reinforced to me at that point that, it actually reinforced to me again that there was nothing in that music and that didn't mean anything to anyone because that's the place I was in. So it's just
Can I flip that kind of positively from my experience? Like when coming up in Wellington, you think Wellington's a big city, and you might remember I had the Brekkie show, and so people were kind of talking about that. It's not nowhere near the level you guys were at, but I fell into something that not only was what I really loved doing and I was naturally good at, but that had me kind of a known entity there.
Absolutely, yes.
So
So when I
was in, I think it was one of your band members that was. Anyway, I'll tell you that story at the end. I'll remind you of it. But I ended up and did the OE because I went to the Red Bull Academy and then went to London and things didn't work out the way I wanted, and same thing in Melbourne, just ended up like faking CVs of having done way less to try and just get basic work.
Yeah.
But it did really good things for me, I think, in hindsight, like kind of eating a bit of humble pie for a while. Yeah,
well,
like everything kind of. I don't say everything happens for a reason. That's kind of I don't really quite well.
No, it
but it was good for me. It was shit, but it was good for me.
Same.
And what I mean is my approach to other people. Like being 21 and doing something where you're kind of held up a little is you don't want to live the rest of your life like that. You'd be an arsehole.
No, that's right.
Yeah. So I think that's a good side of it, and I think also like learning to graft, whether you can use a hammer or not, was good. Just doing some hard work.
Well, it's just fucking you do what you got to do when you're in that phase.
But fuck those guys. I feel like we should find them and
No.
I'm kidding.
No, that was awesome. That was awesome because
Yeah.
actually, ran in a roundabout way. I think I had a conversation with a couple of other people about it, but it started pushing things the other way.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, you and that. This is going back a little, but I just happened to see. Was it Tamsin's 21st that was the AC/DC covers band?
oh fuck, was it?
I'm pretty sure it was Tamsin's 21st. I don't know how she managed to. Yeah, but what a band to have at your 21st was a half Shehard. It was a Shehard Tokona one night AC/DC band,
Yeah,
and I was
right.
standing about 3 feet away from it. It was amazing.
We actually formed an AC/DC.
Have I got that right? It was a birthday.
I think
on
so.
the way. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I can't remember anything that ended up at the hole in the wall at that point. They were pretty,
Yeah.
there's a lot of blackout periods in that time.
That's all right. I've got that bit. You give me another bit later on.
But
yep.
we did do.
You do recall being in an AC/DC
I
cover?
do. 'Cause what I do recall
I
is
think that's the only show you did.
no. What I do recall is we did AC/DC covers when we went on the fish tour with Shehard.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I think it bounced off that.
That's right.
I do kind of remember something doing for 10
Yeah,
21st.
it was awesome.
Oh, you were there. At least one of us were.
Oh no, it's one of those urban. It's one of those. It's one of those urban legend things. You just check in with other people. I've actually been. first time, probably 20 years, probably longer. Actually, spending a bit of time with Carl again because we're right into pinball. And,
Kippo.
yeah, and he's out in
Yes, he is.
Pookie, and so through Jez, our friend Jez, Jeremy.
Yeah.
So we dragged Carl along to the pinball, and it's just been
Nice.
just people like that. It's been over 20 years, and it's like me, him, and Jez are 22 again at Midnight Espresso.
Amazing.
Playing pinball at 2 in the morning. So what's happening musically at the moment, mate? I heard you talking about you're sort of, I think you're saying on one of your whatever those things are on the Sunday, the learn to play guitar, that you want to get back on the road again.
Well, yeah. I think I probably started talking that way after far too many wines during that Sunday session, but
well, hang on, come on. You talk about these things, you self-actualise, you realise this comes through. We talk about it on the show now.
I'm not sure.
Maybe someone reaches out, some calls are made.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I can only speak of those things when I've actually. Well, I've just started putting a studio together at home, and that's usually where all that starts. So, I'd actually I've started reaching out to some of the boys again, and for some jam sessions and stuff like that. But that's as far as that goes. But what I do know is that every time I do make those kinds of efforts, it just has a way of creating momentum for itself. So, I think,
Good. I mean, just thinking now, like with lockdown and the level 1, and then just through the grapevine, I heard a few people had been told there was no homegrown gigs any. Some of those big gigs they rely on have been cancelled, but I think now it's gone back to level 1 again. Might be a bit of a summer thing going, early next year, and so it's all kind of changed in the last few weeks. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless someone comes. Unless we get the Roni comes back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't want the Roni coming back in January or February for performers, eh?
No, that'd be really stink.
How did you cope with that, man? Like, we've all got different stories about it. I think did you say you were going out and working still during it? Like you were still getting out and lockdown, I mean. Like how you just talk about this, man. I just want to hear from someone else about
fair enough.
Ups and downs, eh? Where's the world at? Oh God, Jesus, big question.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm in a relationship with a beautiful woman. She's got 2 kids, and we have a house out in Titirangi,
nice,
in Langholm. Yeah. So, I work for a corporate that imports and exports cars out of Japan.
Yeah.
And so I've got a solid job that I really enjoy that I work as a BDM for, So my life over the last couple of years has
been... What is that? Business development manager?
Yeah. Boom. And it's one of those...
Stuck my arms up, folks. Like,
yes. One of those situations, I don't know how I ended up there, but I seem to be quite good at it, I think. And so, I've got a pretty... I've got a pretty tight... happy little life.
It's good timing.
I
thought about that too.
Yeah. And so, with lockdown and stuff like that, I worked all the way through it. We worked full days, half days. So, for me, it kind of kept me occupied.
Did you work from your bubble, or could you go to where you were?
No,
but you still got... Yeah,
I got to go to where I was as the levels progressed, because then we became a business that could help essential workers with putting them in trucks and vans and stuff like that. So that was pretty good. But I mean, it was,
I just mean, man, I don't know.
Pretty hard out.
The hard out thing for me is the world. It's just too big. It's like the world's in a wonky place, man.
Mate.
And this felt like a whole lot of things. It felt like it may be a dress rehearsal for climate change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when we grew up, we were sold America as this. And this is not really locked down, but kind of is. It's all related. We're sold America as this be all end all place, and now that's falling apart in front of us, and people are booping each other over the head, and crazy people are running the world. And I don't know if you've heard about Brazil. I don't follow the coronavirus stuff too much, but he's just not doing anything. The Brazilian, he's kind of like Brazil's Trump.
No, I haven't. I find, To be honest with you,
I was just saying, I didn't immerse myself, and I was just like, do I wear a mask? Do I not wear a mask? What days do I go out? I didn't go deep on coronavirus until you know.
Yeah, I think I find myself existing and needing to exist in a space where if I can.
Quite.
Very. Because I find
we're going like
that.
What's that mean? That's mean like
because if you kind of
don't take it all in, it's overwhelming.
You know, so I feel it's not tunnel vision. It's just I can
protection.
I can touch this and feel this here. Yeah. I can do the basics there. I can take the photos because it can be all so all encompassing, and I find that a little bit too full on for me. I just think that I just try and focus on the things that I can see in front of my face.
That's the King Tubby approach to life, people. Less is more.
Fuck yeah.
Less is more. Space, echoes.
There was some pretty I've got to say, to be honest.
Week 3 I went a bit crazy.
Well, I definitely, I'd definitely be interested to see the stats on the alcohol consumption because I would have nudged that.
Bro,
and my... I just... Honestly, I happen to, do these, fucking Horribud Sunday guitar lessons, and I just happen to have that bottle of wine there.
Wine sponsor.
Yeah, that's right. And it just kind of became what that is, and then, we've got a very, very good deal of that. So we just started getting cases and cases and cases of the shit turn up to our house every kind of week.
And also I do wonder because they had to coordinate so much so quickly. I did think about that. We've come out the other end. We're here having a great convo, but even stuff like the bunch of homicides and stuff last week. I'm just like at the beginning I was like, because being from a background of having learned a lot about mental health over my adult life, I was like, I hope someone in that quick period of time kind of has done some sort of spreadsheet of getting the Roni versus mental health services. There's a lot that comes in. But
bro.
That's what I was going to ask about that is because you are really open about your journey through kind of mental health, your journey, and I was thinking about that when I talked about kind of the 90s and us coming on up, but as a kid and stuff, would you have any insight into mental health or, any what did you know of that when you were younger? Yeah. Why did you look at me like that? Is that a tough question or?
For a long time...
Is that okay?
No, that's good.
Yeah.
For a long time, I've had
I don't know
people
what that look was.
That people would talk to me in all seriousness about, writing a book, right?
Yeah.
And because I've, been very public about my struggles with mental illness, and I used to always palm it off as no, that's ridiculous. I've got nothing to say, and I've got nothing to contribute to. And then I met a very good friend of mine that posed me the same fucking question, and I'm like, had posed back to him the same answer, and he fucking eyeballed me quite intensely, and he said a few things to me, bro. And
you mean, hang on, just let me clear that. So someone asked you what I just asked you. Yeah.
And he eyeballed me, and and he said that, it made me believe that I probably do have something that could make a contribution to other people if they read it. And so I've been going through this process of actually doing that and writing a book about my journey through music. And it intercedes all these things that we've talked through on this conversation here.
Oh, really?
And so it's interesting that it's landed at this point because, I do have there is a moment where I do remember quite clearly that I had when I was maybe 12 or 13, having my first experience of, I didn't have a name for it.
No.
I didn't have any, consciousness, but I did have an experience where I asked myself a question: what am I feeling and who is this and what is this moment,
Right.
you know, and so I wrote about it, and you know, and so I know exactly what you're saying. I know what you mean. There is a voice. There is a voice in there, and I do remember having that experience with it, and I think that, you know,
I just the way we started with the way you looked at me in that, like, it's so great how we both connected on that, because that's actually there's about 400 questions in that one question. Because I was sort of thinking, you know, like, there's no phone number to call back then. I was thinking about it at primary school, like, just in general, forget mental health, like, everyone was just lumped into one box. Like, we're kind of, I don't know how today is. I don't have kids in primary school, but a lot of that stuff was quite woefully inadequate in terms of, like,
absolutely,
you know, back to what you're saying, you got academic chops or whatever. It's like, I just hope people are kind of growing better. You know, it's easier to grow different and unique humans now than it used to be. And we weren't even in the 60s or the 50s.
No,
you know,
that's right.
Yeah. You know, it's people learn, don't they? It's evolution. It's cultural. You know, it's
it really is.
That actually feels like I didn't even look at this, man. Hardly. Because sometimes these are a bio piece, and that's sort of like the backbone of them, but it's just good to have a chat as well. But I was going to say that, like, I've been pondering kind of this notion of mental health since I listened to a couple of your, you know, like your Nutters Club and so on, that guest thing you do with Richie. And it's a how do you define that, man? Because where I'm going with that is, like, I find you easier and more open to talk to than about 99% of people in my life. So I find in my life that often, like, I find a lot of quote unquote regular people much more difficult to kind of interact with and relate with than a lot of friends who have different variations of kind of, you know, that, what do you call it, like the emotional reactor kind of personality. But, you know, I don't know, things like lockdown and so on, like, I just hope it feels like at least where we are is kind of swinging to more of a kind of a collective approach to the world, which is what we need, right?
Yeah, we absolutely do. But think, I don't know, you know, like,
imagine if Key was in when all of this went down, you know?
Yeah, totally. Well, imagine if Obama was in when all of this went down, right, over there. So you could shine the light in a lot of places with that, because, you know, you just think about this president now is the worst person you could ever be in that position now of anyone in history there. But then again, well, you know, like,
no, totally, it's a reality
bizarre
TV creation. They even made up even his office was made up before he was elected. It was a set. Americans fell for a set on a TV show, and
it's just starting to feel a bit relentless, all that stuff. You know, it's just like, fuck. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just starting to feel like...
That's what I was asking about this year. It's like, what is the end game of this year?
Can someone just roll the credits? Someone roll the fucking credits, please. Like, we've just had enough. Like, it's time to wrap it up.
Hey, we'll end there. No, thank you, bro.
Nice.
It's been a pleasure.
Awesome, bro.
All right.
Verbal high straight down from up above.
So normally the show finishes when Aaron or the guest and me say our last words. He's a national treasure, that man, by the way. But maybe this is post lockdown. Maybe this is the start of new things. Maybe there'll be an ending to this thing every week now. Sometimes there's a song or whatever at the end. That's the point of why you're still listening. Hopefully, to me, a few days after Aaron left. And that's because I wanted to explain what I'm going to play, because it might seem a bit sort of like live in the now, playing a wetter tune, seeing as Mr. Tokona's had so many fruitful projects since then. But this comes with a great story told by the man himself, in true Aaron style, in that on one of his Facebook Live sessions, he explained what Calling On was about, which is one of my favourite New Zealand tunes ever. But I never knew what it was about. And in true Aaron fashion, he said it's not really about much, and then went really fucking deep about what it's about. And what it's about is really great. It makes you understand and appreciate the song even more. You'll know what I mean when I steal some of what he said from his Facebook Live thing now and cut it in and play the tune. So, Aaron?
The song's in D minor. For all you guys that don't know how to play D minor, download an app and fucking sort it out. It's not my responsibility. Anyway, there were about 4 versions of the lyrics that I could find on Google. And I'd just like to say thank you very much for those fellas that took the time to try and translate what I thought I was thinking about when I wrote this lyric, because I haven't had a fucking clue what the song's about, actually. My good friend and mentor and my beautiful friend Mike came over today, and the song was playing on Hodaki FM, and he pulled up for a fag break and pulled out the lyrics. He had already found the lyrics, and I read them and went, fuck, are those the lyrics, bro? I didn't know if they're fucking lyrics or not. Like, God, it's so useless, eh? Free the life force from us all. Can you hear your heartbeat? Rather torturous, but hold the light upon your face, plant the seeds among us. I suppose I was trying to write something that was deep. I honestly don't know what the fuck this song's about. I'm sorry to destroy the myth, but it's 20 years down the track now, so I'm just going to blow this shit out, okay? So, well, anyway, 20 years, what am I, 40? I would have been 19 when I wrote these lyrics, 18, 19. If you're not Bob Dylan, who the fuck do you, I mean, just running about shit, really. Calling on. At the end of the day, calling on to me was about the karanga onto a marae. The whole vibe of this track was about a karanga onto a marae, which is where I grew up. When you go to tangis and people, karanga you onto the marae, and and it's quite a waily, it's a very Māori, the Māori scale is actually quite spooky, so it's like when you karanga someone onto a marae, it's usually around tangis or people departing to the next life. And so even though I didn't know what the fuck the song was about, it had that vibe about it, and a lot of it came from my brother's bass line, really. My brother Tuki, he came up with that bass line, and to me it sounded something that had a calling about it, and so it was a calling on, it's just kind of calling on to the marae, you know what I mean? And so I didn't really have the body of the song, but I had the vibe, and it's a classic minor chord.